So I think it's about time, Eric, we get started.
Okay, great. I'm ready when you are.
Let me just make sure everything is fine. Yeah. We'll just give them 30 seconds. Yeah, I think we can get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series, Navigating Through Pandemic and Beyond. TechSera is starting a brand new webinar series on the pandemic and how organizations across the globe are trying to adjust and weather the storm with the pandemic in the year 2020. And if we have to summarize this year in one word, I could only think of the word strange and unique in very sense. So that's why we are here, and we are talking about it. Thank you to all the viewers who have joined today to share the stage with us and hear our thoughts on the pandemic and managing the business through the pandemic. My name is Abhijeet Singh, and I am the president and CEO of TechSera. TechSera is a supply chain technology solutions organization providing deep supply chain expertise with its wide range of product suite, advisory services, and support. And I am a supply chain technologist, an agent of digital transformation, and also a board advisor. With me joining today, we have Eric Howell, CEO of Port City Logistics. And Port City Logistics is a full service offering third-party logistics company that provides warehousing, drayage, over-the-road trucking, as well as the brokerage transportation solution. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Eric for joining in our very first topic of the day, the next normal in supply chain. Eric, thanks for joining us. And would you like to give a brief introduction about yourself and Port City Logistics to our viewers?
Sure. Thank you, Abhijeet. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be with you today. And Port City Logistics was started back in 2001. We're a single source logistics provider. We do distribution and warehousing, and we also handle asset-based drayage in and out of the Port of Savannah. And then also we handle a lot of outbound transportation all over the continental US. So we pretty much are a single source logistics provider, end-to-end solution provider, and we have about 2 million square feet under management here in Savannah. So we're excited to be here with you.
Great, thank you, Eric. And for our viewers, throughout the course of the conversation, feel free to post your questions and we'll take them towards the end of the conversation. And between me and Eric, we'll try to answer the question. So on that note, Eric, we'll get started. And as you mentioned, right, Port City Logistics is a 3PL offering company, and you deal with not just with the distribution, but also the drayage and the transportation side. So like a single source provider. And this COVID-19 has significantly impacted supply chain globally and highlighted the importance of how the companies needs to be forefront of their innovation. So on that note, I would like to ask you, and we keep using the word supply chain and 3PL, and it's a generic term. I wanted to be a little bit more specific with you on that conversation, as how do you see this pandemic has impacted 3PL supply chain industry in particular?
Sure. So despite all the craziness and volatility this year and how tough it's been on everybody, the industry, so the supply chain industry, logistics industry has actually come out as one of the winners. And we're actually very blessed to be a part of that. Supply chain is now pretty much a household term now. Back in 2002, when I went to business school, and the way most people traditionally thought about business is you have your sales and marketing side, you have your operations side of things, and you have finance. But not many people think about how the goods, resources, materials, flow in and out of a business and to the end consumer. At the same time, you talk about third-party logistics. I mean, it's a very broad and diverse statement and array of offerings. You're talking drayage trucking, outbound transportation, over-the-road transportation. You got warehouse and distribution, e-commerce, final mile delivery, reverse logistics. So it's we're talking about a lot here, and all of those aspects of logistics are very complex. But at the same time, they're they're fragmented and they're very, very labor intensive. We live in a very physical industry. And because it's so labor intensive and complex, COVID's put a tremendous amount of pressure on every company's supply chain, and also basically create a spotlight where every management team of every company is now having to look at each and every aspect of their supply chain and wondering and asking the questions, why and how are we doing things. Last thing I want to say, at the same time, despite all these challenges, it's created huge opportunities too.
Very well said, Eric. I mean, you summed it up right, that the pandemic has caused a sequential disruptions in the supply chain world, and there is a demand shock and there is a supply shock, and then together it's creating more like a financial shock environment where the economy is being impacted.
Right.
And this outbreak has also exposed lots of missing links, the vulnerabilities in multiple tier of supply chain, like the technological approach to track and trace, and the visibility. Would it be safe to say that COVID-19 has exposed a lot of broken links in our supply chain network, such as lack of transparency or the manual processes, what we have been and used to, like running our operations and businesses on a spreadsheet? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. So, early on when COVID hit the United States back in March, when everything started shutting down, we saw the run on paper goods in the grocery stores. So that was the demand shock. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a consultant for a paper manufacturer, and basically they make toilet paper. And one of the reasons why we were having such issues getting toilet paper to grocery store shelves wasn't so much toilet paper couldn't be made here in the U.S. It was that the packaging that was sourced from China, and they couldn't get the packaging in to put the paper, paper towels and toilet paper in it to get it out to the stores. So, and then so we had the supply shock too. Everybody remembers where you couldn't get soap and you couldn't get hand sanitizer, and then all of that together with especially lockdowns and restaurants and commercial establishments closing. It created the financial shock and the need for government stimulus. So unemployment's increased. I mean, it's been a very strange year, like you said. And anyway, it's any one of those things would be tough, but all three in the same year has brought a lot of extremely challenging times. From that, we've realized that you have to have systems that have flexibility built into them. You have to have extra capacity in your systems, and you have to have end-to-end visibility to be able to handle the volatility and fluctuations. And then everything's also predicated on trust, and that starts with people and systems. You're going to have challenges no matter what you deal with in life, and it's having customers and vendors and relationships on the people and technology side that you can build that trust around, so that you can work with them to come up with successful solutions. So obviously we can never anticipate everything in life, but it's those people and systems and technology to help us to be fluid and flexible so that we bend but don't break.
Absolutely. I personally believe that this pandemic has forced every businesses to be more innovative in how they operate and what they offer to their customers. Like a company like ours, a supply chain solution providers, we are also coming up with emerging technologies, so that we can be closer to our customers. We can change the whole perception and manage the business through pandemic and beyond, if you will. Yeah. So if I break the industry into different categorization, and I know I'm going a little deeper in within the supply chain space. So there is a retail side of the world, and then there is the distribution side of the world, or the wholesale side of the world, if you will. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes it's very easy to put solutions in place, and when I say easy, I mean who your end consumers are, and how your customers are going to react and what's important to them. Solutions like and we all are seeing around the globe that solutions like contactless payment, contactless delivery, buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickups. You go to Best Buy, you park your car in the parking lot, you don't even see an associate. They come and drop your package, close your trunk, and off you go. So solutions like that, it's only possible because companies are adapting to more like the digital way of doing the business, if you will, and coronavirus has only accelerated that shift towards that. So like every industry, every business is trying to innovate themselves in terms of their offerings. So how do you think like it's forcing organizations like Port City Logistics in the distribution, in the drayage industry, in the transportation industry to evolve in your supply chain offerings?
Sure. I mean, so that's a big and very wide question, but I'll do my best to answer that and break it down into succinct points. But a lot of companies that we deal with as a third-party provider are realizing the flaws in a just-in-time inventory process, and they're having to shift to resiliency and redundancy. So, with a lot of our customers, we're having to not only we had to expand some of our capacity with some of the distribution centers that we run for them. We also have to make sure that we've got the right teams and systems in place and be able to help them navigate that evolution and change, so to make sure we can be fluid and minimize those disruptions. I think COVID's highlighted the importance of technological innovation, and companies with a robust digital roadmap are going to emerge through COVID and post-COVID much stronger than those who don't. And it's going to separate the winners from the losers. And then it also goes to the workforce. So you have, I think, and unemployment's been high throughout COVID. And then, skilled workers and skilled technicians that help us run throughout our distribution centers and help us run, equipment. They're in very high demand and low supply. So you've got to have good technology and also be able to maximize almost man plus machine. So you don't want to be fully automated. You don't want to be fully manual. You want to have a nice marriage of the two. And I think you can be more flexible that way. So, some of the things we've done this year is we've introduced bots to help with some of our team members in the office. We've added OCR technology as well to be able to leverage what we can get done in a day. And then out in the warehouse too, beyond full automation, we added labor management so that we can take our great team members and make sure they're as productive as possible, and also that they can earn more on an hourly basis and a daily basis than they could pre-COVID. So that's kind of some of the things I think about. At the end of the day, it's about data management, and visibility is king. So it all goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with that statement, Eric. I mean, as a fellow technologist, as a fellow entrepreneur, when I compare my conversations with my customers pre-COVID, whether it's the CEOs of the world, the chief operating officers of the world, the chief supply chain officers of the world, the conversation used to start with, okay, why do we need to adapt digital transformation, or why do we need to believe in something as important as a digital engagement with your customers? Where now it's more of the same customers and the same CEOs giving me a call and talking about how important it is during the pandemic, where some of the businesses were non-essential and the only place they used to sell was Amazon. And the next thing you know, Amazon came out and said, hey, no more non-essential until we are over this. Mm-hmm. What do the businesses do? I mean, that's their bread and butter. Right. So my conversation with those businesses, okay, if they realize without me saying that if there was an infrastructure where they could just migrate from, let's say, Amazons of the world to the Walmarts of the world, or eBays, or Shopify, or any other platform where they can sell their products. So at least there is not a business continuity issue there, right? I mean, there's no disruption to the business, and technology would have made that possible. So the conversation itself has become so much different, the pre-pandemic and just during the pandemic. And one thing which always comes to mind is that we all, I mean, as a human species, we all are very reactionary to the changing macro environment around us. So everybody reacted and in a positive direction, right? I mean, whether it's businesses, whether it's schools and government, I mean, everybody did their bit. So in that reaction, like I said, there is a positive coming out that people are embracing new ways of doing business. People are embracing innovative technologies, emerging technologies. Now, the question which comes to me that, a lot of big organizations or even smaller organizations for that matter, where the digital transformation is the priority in 2020. I mean, I've spent my last few months into this end of this year, and it's not just 2020. The topmost priority for any CIOs or any chief supply chain officers I've been talking to has been a digital transformation. Now, what I wonder, and I would like to I have my own thoughts on it, but I would like to take your thoughts on what do you think that, do you think this digital initiatives will be a norm moving forward in the post-pandemic era too? Or once we get past this pandemic, then we'll get back to the original way of doing business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these innovations are here to stay. The pandemic's been a true reality check for many businesses that were reluctant to embrace the digital transformation pre-COVID. And it's definitely going to separate, like I said, I think in the earlier, it's going to separate the winners and the losers. So, consumers are very, very smart, and they want immediate satisfaction, and they want ease of use. And how easy your systems are for both your customers and the end consumer to process orders, and basically to be, we all talk about visibility, but from a logistics provider and a supply chain provider, you almost want to be invisible. You want everything to work seamlessly. My wife right now, she's doing a lot of Christmas shopping for our girls, and when she jumps on a website, if she may love the product she's trying to order, but if the shopping cart if she can't get what she wants ordered and shipped conveniently, she's going to lose patience pretty quickly and jump to another website where she can get the same thing or get something similar. But I mean, the end consumer right now, I think with social media and access to everyone and access to the world, and to be able to display their message to the world, I think it's going to change branding as well for the long term. And it's all about customer experience and digital experience. So, and then say also on that, like the technology side of things, you got to have the right people to go along with the technology. So if you just have technology, but you don't have the right teams to work with it and to set the algorithms correctly, you're going to struggle. So we're investing right now, Port City, in technology and people. I mean, we've hired a lot of people since the beginning of COVID, and we're just trying to make our team better and better. And it's kind of like the flywheel effect. As you get better people and you get better technology, it builds on itself, and it really starts to turn and get better and better. I think the companies that understand that that combination of people and systems and technology, they're gonna win long term.
Great, Eric. I mean, great insight into where you talked about your wife representing an average consumer in the e-commerce ecospace, and how when she gets, and that's true for most of us, I would like to say, right? It's more about that experience, that engagement with the customer, more so than the products. Like the products have always been there. Like, we could go to the stores, we could look at the product, buy the product. What is changing is the experience, right? I mean, because I get the same product on 4 different websites, and sometimes I don't like the look and feel of the website. Sometimes I don't like how many clicks I have to do, how many pages do I have to go, right? There is a whole world of analytics out there where you can see at what page and what click of the button you see percentages start dropping, right? I mean, so I mean, that represent us. I mean, us being the average consumer, right? I mean, so it's like people say, right? Customer is the king, and now, I mean, I can say that consumer is the king, and the experience has moved. Like earlier back in days, I mean, at least in my career in supply chain, I've seen where it started off being providing the visibility in the 4 walls to hey, the UPS of the world or the FedEx of the world has picked up the package. Now it's off to them. So kind of, we are moving a step further, and then we are just trying to bring that post-purchase experience with our customers as well, like the whole digital engagement modeling in our business model. I mean, I think the emphasis on the customer communication and more and more demanding customers, and then more and more changing landscape of the customers, that how they shop, where they shop, right? I mean, I was reading the statistics, and they said like the e-commerce world is no more an e-commerce world. 80% of e-commerce world is called m-commerce world, which is a mobile commerce. So there are companies who are not doing so well in their business just because they have a great product, they have a great website, but you know what? When you pull up the website on the phone, it's not as intuitive as it's on the desktop. And 80% of your industry is shifting to m-commerce.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, you know, that's not going to fly well with the consumers. So that said, right, you know, how do you see the customer requests for a company like Port City is also changing, you know, with the pre-pandemic now into the pandemic and beyond? Like, what type of customer requests are changing from your business standpoint?
So at a high level, I mean, the demand for e-commerce and capability there is exploding. But at a lower level, just emphasis on customer communication, transparency and honesty about any changes or challenges. I think you know, customers want flawless service. They want speed. They want fluidity, but they would much rather know upfront if there's a problem than to find out late or to try to hide it. So I think that's key. The whole reverse logistics, return logistics side of the business is changing, has pretty much changed overnight. And where, you know, I think a company like Tecovas, which sells boots, I mean, they're doing a great job of it, right? So since we can't go into a store right now and try on clothes and so forth, a lot of people are going to buy, you know, shoes and clothes and have them shipped to their house, and they might not know if they need a medium or a large, or what, you know, do I need a size 11 or a size 12 in a boot? So Tecovas has figured out, you know, hey, if somebody orders an 11 and 12 of the same style boot, we're going to go ahead and send them a return label and basically packaging so that when they get it, they can turn around and send it right back, because they know they're only going to keep one. And so their algorithms have identified that. So that's big. I think the customer experience on the brand, just like a Peloton, right? So the last final mile and say white glove delivery, that's completely changing the logistics space. So everybody's familiar with Amazon, you know, you have a box that's dropped at your door, but it's very low customer engagement. Or Peloton, they bring the whole bike, they bring it into your house, they set it up where you want it. You know, they make sure you pretty much understand how the app works. They wipe it down and make sure it's clean, and then they head out. So it's just a totally different customer engagement. And every business is got to decide, you know, at what level do they want to play and where is their niche market? Because I don't think you can be all things to all people, but there's certainly opportunities at every level. And then just from a high level B2B example is like, so one of our largest customers, it's we have a huge food account with a large company that everybody would know. And in the past, because they wanted a lot of control and security in their systems, they've dropped in their systems into our DC, into other third-party logistics providers' DCs. And they came to us mid-COVID and said, hey, if we give you the type of reporting and formatting that we want and information on a daily basis on what, you know, is shipped in, shipped out, SKUs and so forth, can you just do this for us on your system versus them having to drop it in? Because if you're going to be fluid and you're going to be scalable and you're going to be fast, it doesn't make sense to have your IT team running all over the country trying to drop in hardwire systems. So I just think everybody's trying to get smarter. And it goes back to having that strong partnership with your customers and who you're doing business with. So they obviously are going to have to trust us now to be able to handle that at the same high level expectations that they had previously.
Great. I mean, you brought up two valuable points in your conversation, Eric. One being the reverse logistics or the whole returns model, if you will. Like, and I've always talked about at different platforms where, you know, if e-commerce is growing, returns is going to grow. And that's one industry to watch in the next 2 to 3 years, how it's going to evolve.
Yeah.
Very little emphasis, even after putting so much importance on the returns, a very little emphasis has still been put in on how that whole return management platform works. Like, you know, if from the customer engagement standpoint, like to your point, like, you know, dropping a returns label is such an easy thing to do and a no-brainer, where it makes it so much easier for the consumer to return their products. And when I was watching Amazon returns being set up at Coles, I mean, to me, that was like, I mean, hey, they are trying to leverage the existing network, right? I mean, nothing great than that. Most of the businesses struggle because they do not have that network.
Yeah.
And that's where most of your time and energy is spent building that network. Amazon is no short on cash. We all know that, right? What they are short on is, if they are short on the network, they use the existing leverage with Coles, and everybody who's coming to returns the package for an Amazon shipment, more likely than not is grabbing something from Coles and going back home. So it's kind of, creating that ecosystem where customers are coming back and to return, and at the same time I'm doing more shopping, right? And talking about your Peloton experience, I had the personal experience with Peloton and how they came and installed the bike, and like you talked about the white glove service. That's what I was alluding in my earlier conversation about the whole post-purchase experience.
Yeah.
And we all know, right? I mean, stationary bikes were always there, right? I mean, there is nothing new about the bike. So what did Peloton do different? They came up with the technology. They came up with a model where, hey, it's not just a bike. We are trying to bring the technology and the bike together, in addition to the post-purchase experience you got by somebody coming in, helping you with the setup, cleaning it off, giving you instruction of how to use it. But then they topped it off with a subscription model, right, where you go on the bike and then there is a live trainer and you're training with so many different people. They are motivating you and you're tracking your progress, and they're telling you the right steps to do the bike, as opposed to sitting on a bike and then just pedaling it for the next 30 minutes or the next 45 minutes of your life. So the whole experience, I mean, if I talk about Peloton to anybody, I never talk about it being a bike. To me, it's, hey, the experience, right? I mean, I'm talking to people, I'm talking to the trainer, and the whole engagement part of it. I think that's what is driving Peloton. And guess what? Everybody is buying those subscriptions, and everybody is happy about it, and they're getting the maximum returns on their investment on that. So that's going to stay, where an average consumer nowadays is more about the experience than about the product itself. If the experience is great, the feedback will also be great, and then that will eventually make your product great as well. Like, so it's kind of the whole ecosystem where, and you are helping others to help you, that kind of model. So that being said, Eric, I mean, you being a leader in the 3PL industry and personally in the fraternity, what's your commitment and what's Port City's commitment to create an infrastructure for a modern supply chain to prepare Port City logistics for future?
Sure, I mean, we're highly committed to it. I mean, our focus right now is how do we reduce headaches and become invisible for our customers? Just have that end-to-end seamless experience for the customer, because that's going to help their end consumer. So, we're also, it's something interesting. COVID's brought out, just as we've talked about a little bit earlier, is the relationship and the trust that has to be built with a customer. So how do you take a vested approach? If it's all transaction based and it's always, hey, you got to have, it's got to be done at this price, or hey, you signed a contract at this price, and it's not fluid, then you have a lot of problems. I think the best partners, the best customers we have, it's an open dialogue. And yes, you still have contract framework, but it's also built on continuous improvement. And it's okay, how do we both win together, and how do we collaborate? How do we take the knowledge that we're both working, everything that we're working so hard to do, and how do we maximize that? And then also it goes back to people and systems. So we're heavily investing in our people and our systems, and we understand that technology in and of itself is wonderful, but you got to have the right people to help maximize the technology effectiveness. And then one other thing I'll say is we, back in June, right in the height of COVID, we announced that we were building a 1.1 million square foot facility right outside the front gate of the Georgia Ports Authority here in Savannah. So I mean, we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're heavily investing in all of that. So people, systems, property. I mean, we're going to be a long-term player, and we're here to stay. So we're excited about it, and I'm also spending a whole lot more time with you, so I'm trying to leverage as much knowledge as I can get from you as well. So we're definitely committed. Yeah.
So sounds like, Eric, you are fully vested in making sure Port City Logistics is embracing the digital transformation. and you're putting the right mix of, like you said, the people, the processes, and the technology, all coming together and creating that infrastructure so that Port City logistics is ready, not just for today and for future storms and any future pandemic, if it ever happens, at least your business is ready to weather that storm.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely the goal. Yeah.
No, great conversation, Eric. I mean, great insight. Let's say for viewers at this point, I would like to invite any questions we may have from our viewers,
Sure.
so that I can either have Eric answer that question, or if it's for me, I will be more than happy to answer. I don't have any questions here. Am I looking at the right place? So from Greg, there is a question, Eric, and I'll read out that question. And where did the question go? Oh, it was here and then.
Yeah, I think it says digitalization is such a large, broad subject. How does a 3PL start? Abhijeet, you want me to take a stab at that first?
Absolutely. I would like for you to start with that question.
So I think, Greg, you're right. It's very, very broad. So I think you have to look at the different aspects of your business and see where the biggest gaps are, or where you, and then also you first have to identify where you have gaps, say on the digitalization process, and then also where can you get the quickest wins, and then you have to work with the team you have and seek out experts as well. So and that's how you basically that's how Port City, that's how we attack the issues. So you identify your gaps, you figure out where you can get the quickest wins, you put as many of the quick fixes in place as you can. At the same time, you have to be working in parallel paths to be able to shore up any other issues that you have or opportunities. So, you always want to put your best minds on your biggest opportunities, not your biggest problems. So definitely you have to surround yourself with experts in the field and to be able to attack the problem. Abhijeet, what do you think? What did I miss?
I mean, that's exactly how I would have put it. Like, you identify your work streams today in your business. The best way for any digital transformation is there needs to be a discovery. Like, hey, where are we in that whole spectrum, right? I mean, look at your work streams, break that down by job functions, by different work streams, and look at where are the gaps, where are the missing links, where is an overlap. I may be going into 4 systems and doing something which could have been done in 1 system if there was a link between these systems. So things like that, I mean, keeping an open eye. So that's where the discovery is the most important phase of a digital transformation, where it's an eye-opening for an organization to look at it and say, hey, this is what I have to do to get this information which is available here. So, that kind of conversation is where you start. And then you build a comprehensive plan as to what are the different work streams which needs your attention and what kind of attention. So you find the gaps and then you describe how you want to attack it.
Right.
So I have another question here from Giovanni Lewis. Hey, Gio, thanks for posting the question. So his question is, you spoke a lot about growing your people. Are those training and development plans handled in-house, or you're utilizing a third party for training and change management?
I'd say it's both. We do as much in-house as we can, but also understand that sometimes, a lot of times in life, there's great programs already out there. And, and we also leverage a lot of contacts and we work with consultants too. So where it makes the most sense, we try to leverage the experience that we can. So hope that makes sense. We love to develop as much as we can in-house, and then we also learn as much as we can from outside resources. And then, we try to make that our own as well.
Great insight. Glenn had a question a few seconds ago. He was like, he was asking if, Eric, you could talk about a couple more technology specific examples where Port City is adopting to digital transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that we started working on really early on during COVID was, we have a warehouse management system, we have 2 transportation management systems, we have a yard management system, we'd have that separate accounting system. So, but they're all separate systems, one of them's proprietary, and the rest are pretty much have been third-party bought. And so we've worked with a group to help basically put all of the systems together, integrate them, basically create our central brain. So that's one of our number one projects, and making sure that we have access and pipelines built for all the different e-commerce portals out there, whether you're buying from Amazon or Walmart.com or eBay or Shopify. So just that fluidity, because when customers come to us, they say, hey, can you handle orders from this platform, and you have to be able to accept those quickly. You can't be scrambling to be able to continue to grow. Same thing on transportation side. So just isolating that alone, I'll say a couple aspects. One, all of our trucks have TechSera camera units in them, and so those have artificial intelligence and analytics built in. So all of our truck drivers are not only they're driving, but we're also watching them and coaching them and being able to see how can we drive safer. So that's another digital transformation piece we've done. And then, like I've talked about, we've added some OCR technology as well to help maximize some of our team members' productivity during the day. So it's another thing on the transportation side. Delivery orders, instead of having to manually input them, OCR technology can basically read, 99% of it, and then we have a team member go in and check. But that it gives us the ability to handle so much more transportation coverage and drayage coverage than previously. So hope that makes sense.
Sounds like a lot is going on, Eric, in the digital transformation.
We got a lot of irons in the fire. Yeah. So let's see. I lost. Abhijeet, you still there? Hey, Abhijeet. Okay, I don't know what happened.
That's what you call digital transformation.
That's right. We're working through it as we speak.
My internet was disconnected.
Okay.
I think we answered most of the questions. I'm not sure if I missed something. There was one question from Sonia Surana, and I'll take that question. Her question was, and Sonia, and pardon me if I'm not putting it correctly. It was like, with the changing landscape on the technology side, how do entrepreneurs keep up with it? And I'll just say that, by learning and by keeping yourself up to date, the learning never stops. So every day you learn the new emerging technologies, you learn the changing business behaviors, and what is changing in technology space to address that problem. And everybody is here to solve the problem. Sometimes the problem is very easily solved when you mix it with the technology backbone. And that's where entrepreneurs like ours, where we are in technology space, we have to be on that constant evolution of learning and making ourselves up to date with the latest and greatest and innovative technologies out in the industry.
Yeah, Abhijeet, I'll add to that, just to read as much as you can and seek out experts in the field that understand the space that you're looking to figure out more about. So, and there's a lot of times that might be 2 or 3 people in a certain space, but yeah, always seek to learn.
Thank you. Thank you. On that note, if you don't have any more questions, I would like to once again, Eric, thank you. Wish you all the success, you and Port City Logistics. And I also thank all our viewers for joining us today, and wish everyone a early happy Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And talk to everyone later.
Pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.